Welcome once again to the Speakers Inc. We Speak Global Speaker Showcase Series. My name is Dwayne, and today it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Alison Canavan. She's been named one of the top 8 transformational coaches in the US by USA Today for 2021. She specializes in managing change, stress, burnout, and overwhelm. She helps companies support their workforce who are transitioning back into the corporate office and finding their work-life balance. As well as being inspirational, Alison's workshops and keynotes include incredible tools for transforming and understanding people's daily struggles, which include chronic stress, anxiety, depression, and addiction in all forms, from sugar to alcohol, to codependency, and so much more, helping people to become more aware of what's driving their habits. Her heart-led business and 360 approach to well-being is innovative, inclusive, and accessible to all. And once you've felt her energy and her sheer enthusiasm and passion for what she does, you'll want to stay online for the Q&A section as well. It's fascinating. She is a fascinating lady. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Alison Canavan.
Thank you, Dwayne, for that amazing introduction. And thank you so much to Speakers Inc. I am so thrilled to be with you today. I'm going to be talking to you for the next 20 minutes about my favorite topic, which is having more energy. Look, who wouldn't like more energy? I'm going to be encouraging you to think about energy in a very different way than maybe you have ever before. But before we do that, let's take a few deep breaths. Let's ground ourselves, bring us into this beautiful present moment. So first deep breath in with me. And a nice big audible sigh. And I really want you to release and let go on that out breath. Number 2. And release. Can you feel the difference? Number 3. And release. And that is the difference a deep breath makes. It just helps to bring us into the present moment. I'm going to be talking a lot about presence and coherence. And we're going to be ending today's session with a beautiful heart-centered coherence practice together, where you're going to actually have the opportunity to experience what it's like to bring gratitude in, connect with your heart, and actually shift into a different state of being, which helps us in so many ways. But first of all, I want to talk to you a little bit about energy, because it's interesting. A lot of us don't feel like we have enough, or we feel tired an awful lot of the time. And stress is the biggest killer that we have today. They say that it's 90% of all diseases have their root cause in stress in some shape or form. So here's some statistics for you. 70% of students in the US say they are always stressed. Always stressed. 1 in 5 students has thought about suicide. I just want you to sit with that for a minute, because what's happening to us in our younger years, if not addressed, absolutely carries on to our later years. And we do see this with 83% of Americans worried about their future. These are high numbers, guys. 77% of employees in the US alone experience the physical effects of stress. Now, this is about 26% frequently experiencing burnout. So there are just a couple of stats from the current studies that are being done. And these studies are pulled from Harvard, from WebMD, and all across America from different places. Now, what I want to talk to you today is about really understanding that to have more energy, we first of all have to really look at our connection to stress and our personal relationship to stress, because everybody has a different relationship to stress. I know for many, many years, I was permanently in fight or flight. I suffered terribly with anxiety and depression. And because of that, I also had chronic addictions, which I've now recovered from. So I know what it's like to be in the stress state all the time. But I also know what it's like to build in beautiful practices into my day that actually don't take up much time, but have huge difference in how I feel. So let's think about energy as a currency. How do you spend yours? How do you save yours? And are you investing your energy? So a lot of us are taking from our energy bank all the time. Think about going to the ATM, right? And every day you're constantly taking money out, until one day your ATM is like, there's no money left. And you're like, what do you mean there's no money left? And you haven't even been noticing that you've been spending all this energy, right? So then what do? Instead of addressing the issue energy-wise, most of us then just go to credit cards. And so we start spending on credit cards. And so what ends up is we're in an energy deficit, and we're pushing and we're pushing and we're pushing all the time, leading us to feel overwhelmed, burnt out, having an inability to cope, chronic anxiety, and the list goes on. So today I'm going to encourage you to think of, imagine you were given 100 books every day. That's just what you're given. And how you start your day makes all the difference, right? So you can either add to your energy bank by maybe meditating, going out and doing some exercise, eating a real healthy breakfast. Say each one of them are $10. So maybe you could start with 3 or 4 lovely practices in the morning, and you could start your day with $140. Here's another way you could start your day. You could wake up and start worrying, right? A lot of us do this. Open our eyes and we have a massive to-do list to do, and we automatically are in fight or flight, or we reach for our phone and start scrolling. So let's say the reaching for the phone alone takes 50 bucks. So now instead of starting the day with 130, we're starting with 50. But what if we're doing that every day? And what if we're not refilling our energy bank at all during the day? What do we think happens to our bank account of energy? Now, if you saw your actual bank account, right? You know, you saw the money going down and you were getting alerts from the bank saying, you know, you've got to stop spending. You got to stop spending. This is getting a little crazy. You would start to take notice, right? You just would. So why do so many of us ignore the warning signals in our own body and mind? And it's for a number of reasons. We're indoctrinated into a world where we're very busy. We're constantly on the go. We feel like we have so much to do, and we feel like time is against us. So I'm going to be teaching you about the physiology behind stress, and how when we're in a constant state of fight or flight, how the parts of our body that we actually need to help us, like our prefrontal cortex and our brain, are actually not available for us. So I want to share, though, about how powerful energy is, okay? And how energy is actually contagious. So I'm just going to share my screen in a couple of minutes with you. But before I do, I want to just, you know, when you have been in a room where somebody walks into the room and you go, wow, that person really lit up the room. They were amazing. They were so full of energy. Or you know, when you've been in a conversation and somebody leaves and they leave you feeling so lit up. You also know when you're in a conversation with somebody, how you can feel if somebody completely drains your energy, or someone walks into the room and they're complaining and they're moaning all the time. You think, oh my gosh, like that person completely drained my energy. Well, when we're thinking about how we spend our energy, save our energy, and invest our energy, that also goes for our relationships too, because we could be investing our energy with relationships that are draining us all the time. They're life-taking, not life-giving. So I have this beautiful video that I'm going to play for you now, and it's a real example of how energy works. So here we go. Okay, hands up. Come on. Who did not laugh? It is impossible not to laugh, especially when you hear somebody giggling like that. And it's really interesting. There's been some studies done on this, and people have gone into places like the subway in New York, right? And they've started giggling, like really giggling. And people have looked at them as if they're insane. First of all, you know, they're all trying to read their books, look at their phones, super awkward moment. I can't, you know. And the person has continued to just keep laughing and laughing and laughing. And there's some wonderful videos on this. And eventually everybody in the train cart starts laughing too. And this is the perfect example that energy is contagious. So your energy is contagious too. So what kind of energy would you love to be giving out in the world? Would you love more energy? Great. Well, let's first of all look at the relationship to stress. So I have a few questions here, just yes or no questions I would love you to answer, just to see how stressed you really are. Well, do you get upset easily? Yes or no? Do you feel overwhelmed daily? Yes or no, throughout your day? Do you feel like there's a lack of time in your day? This is a big one for people. A lot of us feel like time is against us, that we have a constant to-do list. Let me just give you a little bit of advice. You're going to leave this planet with a to-do list. The to-do list never gets done. So my advice is choose 3 things every day that you can get done and action those, because it actually sends a signal to your brain of what you are doing and not what you're not doing. Do you tend to overreact to minor situations? Do you have trouble focusing? Do you have sleep issues? Do you worry a lot? And do you self-soothe with things like TV, food, alcohol, etc.? So this is what stress is costing us. And if you just look at this, all the things we do, extra coffee, cigarettes, sleeping pills, medication, sugar, so much more in an effort to combat stress. And if you look at here on the screen where I have this elastic band, and this is how I explain stress to people. So this elastic band is, let's say, our bounce back ability during the day, right? So we should wake up and things happen to us during the day where we get stretched. And that either, and it bounces off, you see that? So we either get stretched, we come back again, stretched, we come back again. So that's the way we should be. But this is what's happening for most of us. We get stretched and we stay stretched from first thing in the morning. And this is what it's like to be in fight or flight. Okay, so most of us wake up like this, but what happens? I want you to think about what happens when you're in this rigid state too often. Well, you become inflexible, first of all, and then with either snaps. Now, what happens when this snaps or breaks? This is what we call burnout, being at a dis-ease with ourselves in mind, body, or spirit. Okay, so everything is connected, and we've got to understand how we manage our stress during our day so that we can go in and start building a different relationship with ourselves. So we're going to talk about stress from the perspective of it not being in the present moment, because stress is when we want to be somewhere else but here right now. And it's really important that we look at this relationship to stress, because when we're in the fight or flight all the time, the parts of your body, so let's think about it. Okay, we get stressed. Back in the day, the saber-toothed tiger, when we were running from danger, our body is super clever, right? So the blood rushes to all the extremities, and anything that the body doesn't need in that moment is switched off. So your digestive system is turned off. Your prefrontal cortex in the front of your brain, which is responsible for emotional regulation, thinking straight, thinking cognitively, problem solving, all of these things are not available to us. Studies have shown recently that prolonged periods of acute stress actually damage the integrity of the prefrontal cortex. But let's look at it for a minute. If we're sitting in front of computers, if we're constantly pushing ourselves to do stuff, the actual parts of our brain and body that we need to help us in those moments are not available to us. And this is what's really, really important for us to understand. So when we start to understand stress from this perspective, we've got to understand that we've got to do something different to help ourselves, to bring ourselves out of the fight and flight state and back into what we call rest, digest, and create. Because an anxious mind cannot exist in a relaxed body. One of the main ways we can do this, and it's free and available to us all the time, is we can actually take off our socks and shoes. And we can go outside and stand on the earth. Now, the earth has a natural electromagnetic frequency. Amazing documentaries on this you can see called Earthing and Grounding. When we stand on the earth actually pulls what's called dirty electricity, EMFs, everything out of our body, and refills us with her beautiful natural frequency, helping us to come back into alignment with our own energy, back into homeostasis. So it also reduces inflammation and boosts immunity, increases energy, reduces stress, decreases emotional upset and anxiety, pushes off the body's dirty electricity absorbed by all our electronics, our phones, our TVs, improves our circadian rhythm. Now, this is our sleep-wake cycle, reduces blood pressure, improves heart rate variability, and allows you to disconnect and reconnect with yourself. That's just free and available to you all the time. Who knows that many benefits could be just from standing on the earth in our bare feet for like 5 minutes every single day. So the heart-brain communication is the next thing I want to talk to you about. As a HeartMath facilitator myself, I am deeply passionate about teaching people the power of the heart. So what is coherence? Let's talk about this for a minute. So coherence is like when everything in your system is working like a beautiful symphony orchestra. It's like listening to the most amazing music. Now, what's incoherence? Well, this is when everything's not working together well. It's like some people didn't turn up to work today, or, you know, the orchestra is totally out of tune. So if you go in and the violin is all squeaky and people are coming in at the different times, and it's kind of like that nails on a blackboard kind of feeling. We all know what that feels like, right? So this is when we're in an incoherent state. And when we're stressed, we're in an incoherent state. So we want to bring ourselves back into coherence. And one of the most amazing ways to do this is through the heart. And we're going to be talking about the power of the heart-brain connection. The heart actually has its own complex nervous system called the heart-brain, and it sends far more information to the brain every day than the brain sends to the heart, which I find fascinating. There are patterns in the neural signals from the heart which especially affect the brain. And these centers are involved in our perception, sensory motor integration, and of course self-regulation. So if we look at when we're incoherent, we have an inability to self-manage, but when we're coherent, this facilitates optimal brain function. Now, what this means for us in relation to energy and stress is that we have more energy. It's that we're more focused, we're getting more done. But it's also like a self-soothing balm on the body, helping the body not to be in this consistent fight or flight mode, giving the body optimal time to rest, because stress has a terrible effect on wear and tear on the body. So if we see on the left here, this is incoherence, things like frustration, anxiety, and worry, which we all experience. Look at what it does to our heart rate. But look at here on the right, through emotions of gratitude and confidence and appreciation, we have these beautiful coherence heart rates. So there's been amazing studies done on this through the years with HeartMath, where they've seen a 40% improvement in memory, higher test scores, improved ability to learn, and faster reaction times. And these are just some of the studies that have been done. And this is a clinical study that was done on 6 weeks for people who have done HeartMath. Now, we're going to do a practice together in just a minute, and I'm going to show you what a beautiful and simple practice it is to do that you can take into your everyday life. And the people that took part in this study, we're doing this heart-based practice for 6 weeks, but look at the results. 63% reduction in feelings of being annoyed, 60% reduction in anger, 56% reduction in depression. Exhaustion, let's go back to energy, having more energy, 50%. So it cut feelings of exhaustion literally in half just by connecting and doing a simple HeartMath technique. Feelings of worry were reduced by 46% and tiredness by 42%. So the first thing we need to look at when we're looking to increase our energy is our relationship to stress. Because think about it. You could be meditating, you could be exercising, you could be eating really well, but you're chronically stressed. And that's actually like bringing a bulldozer in and knocking over all your good work. And you don't want that to be happening, right? We don't want to be knocking over all of our good work. We want to be working really in alignment with ourselves and helping ourselves get the best out of our day, by starting our day the right way, by understanding how we can add to our bank account, right, of energy and not continually keep depleting it. So if we look at our energy field, research conducted in the lab at HeartMath has said that our heart radiates a beautiful, coherent field into the environment. And this can be detected by people and animals around us. And actually, just by being incoherent, we bring other people around us into a more coherent state too. So just from doing this work, we're actually helping other people reduce their stress too, just by being. How magical is that, right? Adding so much value to the world just by being coherent. It's simply magic. So we're going to do a little practice together now. And this is a beautiful heart-centered practice where we're just going to bring our awareness to our heart area, start to practice heart-focused breathing, and cultivate an energy of appreciation. So I'm going to invite you to Sit comfortably wherever you are. And you can just be sitting back in your chair with your feet on the ground and relaxing those shoulders down. And you can have your back straight, but not rigid. So we still want to be relaxed. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, I just want you to turn your attention inwards. And very gently just begin to connect with your breath for me. Just watching your breath as it enters and leaves your body. And on your next in-breath, I want you to follow this breath deep down into your heart center, bringing your full awareness to your heart area. And visualize your breath moving in and out of your heart area for me. As we breathe in, we expand our heart's energy. And as we breathe out, we release and let go. Now, if your mind is wandering, that's perfectly okay and perfectly normal. Just bring your awareness back to your heart area again for me. And here we're activating our heart, inviting our heart's energy into our practice. And from here, I want you to bring to mind something that you're deeply grateful for, something that brings you great joy. Maybe it's a moment in time. Maybe it's your favorite place to go visit. Maybe it's a beautiful beach where you can feel the sand between your toes. So whatever it is, I'm going to invite you to bring it to mind in full color, really feeling deep gratitude. And just staying with this feeling, continuing to breathe in and out of the heart area. Beautiful. And one final breath here. Beautiful. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. And as you open your eyes, I just want you to notice, do you feel a difference in your body? And we're not looking for seismic shifts. We're looking just for very subtle changes. Because remember, change happens by doing small things often, sustainable, lasting change. But what we've done in that practice is we've sent a signal of peace and calm by bringing ourselves into that state, using the power of gratitude. We've enabled our body to come back into a state of coherence. And everything turns back on. And now from this place, as we move forward, everything's different. And just doing that practice every day can totally transform your energy. Your heart is a very, very powerful place to connect to. Your heart knows exactly who you are. It knows exactly why you're here. We hear our intuition through heart-centered consciousness. It's like the portal, the door into your soul's knowing. It's wise. It knows exactly why you're here. And when we take time to connect with the heart, a lot of people can initially feel quite vulnerable, right? Because vulnerability is a quality of the heart. But vulnerability is also another open door through where great growth and transformation can happen for us. Incredible transformation happens through heart-centered consciousness. And I encourage you to give yourself some space every day to reconnect with yourself. Because through space and silence, magic happens. And you can do amazing things like practice some mindfulness to increase energy, or dance, which is one of my favorite things to do. You can journal, you can ground like we spoke about, taking walks in nature, listening to soothing music, eating nutritious food. And all of these practices helps to shift and change your energy in any given moment. If you feel stuck, if you feel stagnant, my invitation to you is to not keep pushing, because what happens when I put my hand up to you now and I push and you put your hand to mine and I push against your hand, you're going to push back, right? So when we keep pushing at the universe, life pushes back on us. So we want to open our energy. We want to expand our energy. We want to really understand our relationship to stress, because there is another way to be. There is another way to live. And I am living proof of that for someone who was medicated heavily for a couple of decades, who's in recovery from alcohol and many other things. I know that peace is possible. And I know that there's a different way. There's a different way to experience this world. There's a different way to approach life. And living this way means that you actually get to be in your life and not running away from it. And so one of my greatest bits of advice is to practice the pause. And here's just a couple of things that I have on my list that can help to transform your life. Because remember, small habits done often have the greatest impact. Consistency is king. It is the master, and discipline is the ruler of all. So ditch your phone to get in the zone in the morning with no 30 minutes. Think about that currency, that energy currency. You want to be building your bank account and then investing that money, right? So that you have energy stored for the future. So just 30 minutes of no phone in the morning can help really set your energy up in a totally different way. Start your day the right day with presence and calm. So even saying thank you and taking some time to do a meditation or mindfulness. This is an interesting one. Taking notes by hand in meetings really engages the brain and helps you to be present and focused, helping you to retain more information. Getting a good night's rest. Sleep is where the magic happens. It's when we get time to repair and renew our body and cells, helping us to wake up. This is a great way to invest in your energy bank, getting a good night's rest. It's an investment that keeps building in the background. Think about how you invest your money. Sleep is an amazing investment. Take breaks often during the day and get fresh air and get daylight every single day. Stay hydrated and eat well, and always end your day with a reflective practice, letting go of what no longer serves you. And a really important one, if you want to reduce stress and have more energy, is wind down in the evening with no blue light for at least 60 minutes before bed. So I want to thank you so much for joining me for this session today. My passion is helping people to lead a more fulfilled and nourishing life by having more energy each and every day, which means that they're more present for themselves and for those they love. And I look forward to any questions that you have. Thank you so much.
Ellie, I'm going to say this quite simply. I'm smiling because so much of what you said really hit home. And I'm going to launch straight into a couple of questions straight away that I've got. One of them being, and it really is, believe you and I are very, very similar in the way we think. So it really did hit so many notes. The only difference between you and I is you've really put it down. You put it into practice in terms of a very theoretical way. I just do this every day. Energy is the way I live my life. When did you realize that that was the key? Because I really do believe it's the key, but I only found that out quite late in life, that energy was the key to really being happier and being more successful. When did you realize this?
I think it wasn't like one moment. It was more of a process. So I've been meditating my whole life and going on silent retreats. And I think I've always been trying to understand my own energy. Like, why am I tired all the time? Why am I depressed? Why am I anxious? Why am I hitting the bottle? Seriously, like, why am I, when I used to drink very heavily, I'm in recovery, the wine helped me to have energy in the evening. So I was constantly reaching outside of me, and sugar as well. So all of these external things. And I was devil for coffee. Oh my gosh. Like, if it was like I took the alcohol away and I moved to sugar, and I took the sugar away and moved to coffee, I'm sure people listening know what this feels like. Mm-hmm. And so for me, my entire journey has been, I'm fascinated by so much, by what makes us as human beings do what we do, what makes us reach for these things when we know we shouldn't, when we know they're like harming, they're not benefiting us. And one of the things that I realized was energy is like everything in the universe is energy, and everything has energy. So when we look at vibration and energy, and I'm studying quantum physics and alchemy as well at the moment. So I'm really, really fascinated by these topics. And I then realized that I had spent most of my life in a dysregulated state. So in fight or flight. And this has a lot to do with my childhood, with school. Look, a million different things. We live in a world where the last couple of years of COVID has everyone in a stress state, right? So everyone has some form of trauma. But it was really for me understanding that my central nervous system was constantly on high alert. And that was literally burning through any potential energy I had. It was like, literally, there was nothing left for me every day. So helping to understand myself, first of all, and then studying this deeply over the past decade has been absolutely transformational, because I realized that I have to first take myself out of a dysregulated state. And I'm somebody, I trained in Ayurvedic as well. I'm a Vata body type, right? For anybody who doesn't know what that means, it means that like I'm prone to be wired, to be stressed. It's kind of like my natural state, right? You can tell I'm very energized and very energetic. But when does that go over the line? That's what I had to understand. Like, when is that like good energy, or when am I just purely running on adrenaline? And so I am a daily meditator for decades, especially the past kind of 12 years. And if I don't meditate daily, it's just not a good thing for me or my life, because it helps me to regulate, right? It helps me to take that time to come home to myself. But then on the flip side of that, I'm also love doing kickboxing, because that helps get rid of excess energy, right? So this is where we've got to get to know ourselves. But yeah, for me, it's really understanding the world through the eyes of energy is one of the most important things I've done, because it goes through everything. Water holds energy. We're 75% water. Right? Really important. So if we're not hydrated, we're lacking in energy. And water holds memory too. There's an amazing doctor, Dr. Emoto, who did work around this, where he exposed water to certain emotions and prayer, and then put them under a microscope, and they had the most either beautiful crystalline structures for good feeling emotions, or they looked like it had just been blown up by a bomb if it was something like fear and war. So I started to get very interested in, if we're 75% water and we're speaking to ourselves in a way that doesn't serve us, with like negative talk and negative language, well, that also affects our energy. But also if we're eating highly processed foods, right, it drains our energy. So I started to just really notice when I was working with people. I trained in nutrition for many years. I trained to be a raw foods master. Then I trained in NLP. Then I went to UCLA. And every step on that journey kept bringing me back to the same thing. Everything is energy. Full stop.
Couldn't agree more. And like I said, I work on very similar guidelines as you. And like you, I very often feel very frenetic. Like, have I gone over the line? Does somebody look at you and go, all right, hold on a second, calm down just a little before we continue. But I just thoroughly believe that without the energy, there's no point in doing anything. It's all about the energy. I also happen to know that you were in a very different industry before this one. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that and how that got you to where you've mentioned it a couple of times in the talk, how that kind of the things that you went through in that industry got you to where you are now. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, actually, I started off in the speaking industry by telling my story. I started modeling at 15. So my other side is, yes, wellness, but also motivational speaking, right? Where I teach people how to overcome adversity, mindset, navigating change. And helping people step into their power, because I was in an industry where everybody thinks they want to be in. God, if I was, a model or an actress, I would be so happy. And I started modeling at 15, and I started struggling with depression and anxiety very soon after that. And, I was also in an industry where it was very easy to escape. In fact, it was encouraged. Here's alcohol, drugs, whatever you want, you just got to show up and do the work. And so I did. I kept running from myself for a very long time, but I didn't realize that I was running from myself at that time. I actually was trying to find myself by running, So if things weren't going well in New York, I'd go to Miami. If things weren't going well in Paris, I'd go to London for 2 months. I had this mindset of thinking that it would be better somewhere else. And it was interesting because that cycle continued for a very long time until one day, like, I just couldn't run from myself anymore. Why not? Because we're always with ourselves, right? So I struggled badly throughout those years with a sense of self. And what I also noticed with the industry around me, that I came across very few genuinely happy, content, grounded people. With these, I used to sit in a room with the most gorgeous girls. And everyone had so many deep insecurities. And then there was the relationship with food, which is super unhelpful. And I started to really look at women in particular, because, of the industry I was in, and how everything is about the outside appearance, what we look like, and this really bad relationship with ourselves, with food, with the world, with each other. And so that's why I initially went to study health and well-being and nutrition. And 5 or 6 years into studying nutrition, I started to realize food is not the problem here. Food is a symptom. It's our emotional health that's the problem. It's our mindset. It's what is driving us to starve ourselves or overfeed ourselves. That's what I became more interested in. And it really then became very apparent to me that it was to do with trauma. It was to do with life experience. It was to do with our inability to have the language, the know-how, the tools, or the knowledge to really go in and do any kind of work. I mean, nobody ever said to me, Dwayne, when I was going to psychiatrists and doctors and all of these people, how much are you drinking? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Like, nobody ever, and like, I'm not saying it is their job, like, nobody ever helped me to connect the dots. And so what I started to realize was, everything is interconnected. I had a complete inability to deal with my emotions. And so I self-soothed. The part of me that was in pain, I just numbed out with booze. That was it. And so in the beginning, that was awesome because I was really good at drinking. I'm Irish. I was amazing. I was the best party girl. Everybody wanted me at their party. Last person to leave, always up for a sing-song. But over the years, the highs needed to be higher and the lows got much, 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 much lower. And that's when I knew something had to change. And then I had my baby, and he has been one of the greatest inspirations and, keys to my transformation, because he helped me to become more present, but also it wasn't about me anymore, just me. I didn't, it's really interesting, Dwayne, because we always say, work on yourself. I didn't care enough about myself during those years to really do the work. And that's honestly just holding up my hands. But when he came along, I wanted to be the best mom for him. I wanted to really be fully present. And that's what totally transformed me, just going, if not now, when? And introducing practices like meditation and gratitude and just being nicer to myself. How about that for a second? So, the industry was amazing. And I can tell you, I learned an awful lot from it. I got to live all over the world. I lived in South Africa and Australia and Paris and London and New York and everywhere. And it was a really incredible experience. And it helped me to understand that the grass is not always greener, right? Because I have a lot of young teenagers I work with who think, oh, if I was only a model or if I was only this, my life would be amazing. And so it really helped me to understand that that's just not the truth. And so that's why I became deeply passionate, because I believe everybody inside of them has amazing potential, like everybody. I don't believe it's reserved for just one or two or the lucky ones, but you do have to show up. You do have to do the work. And that's the key. But it doesn't also have to be hard. The way a lot of people make it hard. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. It's got to be consistent. And there's going to be a mindset shift to, I'm doing this for me, not to me. This is creating a much better life for myself. And so that's how I see it now. My lifestyle is dramatically different. Like, I love waking up every day and doing whatever it takes to start the day the right way, because I know it's not just me that's benefiting. It's my clients, my son, and everybody around me as well.
In the speaking industry, thank you for that, though. Your honesty and your authenticity in this really does come through. I appreciate that more than you know. And being somebody also in recovery, I understand exactly what you're talking about. Not being able to be nice to yourself, almost feeling like you don't deserve to be nice to yourself. Nobody else should be, you shouldn't be. So, I mean, I really do tie into that so clearly. Something, however, on a much more positive note, really, doing what you do now in the speaking business, you must have met some incredibly interesting people. And I know we were talking earlier about a couple of people you met just recently. Don't you want to tell us that story again? Because I really did find it fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed to have met an enormous amount of people in this industry. Like I did a talk with Mel Robbins a few years ago, who was like one of my heroes, and being on stage with her at the same event was incredible. But more recently, the experience of meeting people after the pandemic, and listening to them and how they've come through. I do a lot of corporates, so I've been blessed to be invited to a lot of corporate lunches near me here. And I met a guy called Jost de Vries, and he's actually the CEO of the DeLorean motor company. Do you remember that was like the Back to the Future car? Because I was sitting there going, I know this car company, but how? And then I went, that Back to the Future car. Oh my God.
Oh yes.
He's a really phenomenal man, because he was talking about, the power of looking after people. Because everybody in the audience just kept asking him questions about how do you do what you've done, because everyone wants to emulate someone that's been that successful, obviously. And he just kept bringing it back to people. Take care of people and everything else will take care of itself. And I think that's probably one of the most important lessons that we can all learn coming out of COVID, is that people are in pain, they're hurting, they're scared, they're frightened, they're vulnerable. Like, let's look at what I said earlier. 83% of Americans are worried about their future. Come on. Like 77% of employees are unhappy in their jobs. Like, so if we look at that for a second, now look at a company who takes care of their people, what kind of environment that's going to bring forth. And he's not the only one. I was at a lunch with another guy called Brett, and he has a company called data.com. And he was talking about how they looked after their own staff during COVID and the difference it made. And they actually grew their staff from 40 to 141, and how happy their staff were and what an amazing place it was to work. So there are people out there doing it really well. It was amazing to be in a room of 100 odd people, from all different corporates who want to be in the room and who are asking the questions, how can I take care of the people that work for me a little bit better? And that's why I do what I do, right? Because I'm interested in people. And I know from somebody who has struggled with chronic anxiety. Like I used to get on the subway, and if the subway stopped in between stations, my palms would be sweaty. I've gone to the hospital with anxiety, where they've put me on ECGs and everything. Like, believe me, I've lived this. And so when I see people that are struggling, that are unhappy, or there's an environment that they bring me into, I do half-day workshops in corporates. I teach mindfulness and meditation to the most. I had feedback from a job I did recently. You'll love this. So the girl that booked me, she said, little did Alison know that she was walking into a room full of skeptics who really didn't, type A, corporate, just people who are more analytical, let's say. And then a couple of days later, they were like, how can we have her back like at least once a month? So what I teach is about people. It's about understanding people. And I don't care if you're a CEO. I don't care if you work in corporate. I don't care if you're a nurse. I just trained 650 nurses. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're a mom sitting at home struggling, I speak in colleges. It doesn't matter what you do. We're all living in the same world right now, and we're all trying to navigate this and help ourselves feel safe. And if that was the one thing I was going to say to people, we're all looking for safety. And where does safety start? Within. It starts by helping ourselves feel safe, by bringing ourselves out of fight or flight. Because if you don't feel safe within, you're never going to feel safe out there, because everything then becomes a threat, right? So I always say to people, first understand your own relationship to yourself and stress. have practices to help bring yourself out of that state. I will say one other thing though to people that I see every day with my clients. When we start to do this work, because most people are so used to being chronically stressed, right? When they experience the opposite, it can actually be very uncomfortable for them. Would that make sense to you? So I have a lot of clients who experience this. And what I'm going to invite people to do is be the observer of that and notice when we start to self-sabotage, because a lot of us are used to chaos, right? Drama, being stressed all the time. So I have a lot of clients who work with me, and then week 8, they're like, I said, how are you? Well, yeah, this week was, it was really good. Like the kids were really good and everything was really good at home. And it was really uncomfortable, Ali, like really uncomfortable. And then they say, and I'm like sitting here just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Bingo, there's the work. Thank you. Here we go. Now the work starts, because this is what we all want. And then we get it and we self-sabotage. So this is really the work I do. It's helping you to understand patterns, helping you to understand that you are actually creating it all, right? End of. If we go into an alchemical, aspect of it, we're creating it all. We're creating it all through story. So we're the only person that can change that. And that's the magic of this work, because everything in this world is about awareness. We cannot change a thing until we're aware of what we're doing. That's it. It's the greatest agent for change. So yeah, awareness is the most important thing, but we have to actually hold the intention of bringing that awareness in, right? Because most people, when they start becoming aware, are like, I don't know about this stuff because I'm not liking a lot of stuff I see. So I would rather only be aware of good things and not bad things. And this moving into recovery, right? It's like, you take away the alcohol, take away everything, and suddenly you're left with it all. And it's kind of like, I call it the beauty of life now, because I see things so differently. But that's kind of the same when people start meditating, right? They come to me and they're like, I have to be honest with you, I do not find this in any way relaxing, because every time I sit in silence, I just have all these worries and insecurities and negative thoughts. And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing, you see, that's where it's showing us that we're constantly trying to run from that part of ourselves, but we can't. So only when we become the observer and sit with that, does the magic happen. So I always say to people, do you want the magic? Because the magic comes after this, right? The magic is after this stage. So, so it's, I hear you there.
Well, I think it's a really, really good place to stop, Ellie, because you've said it a number of times, magic. You used the word magic, and this has been really magical. It really has been wonderful to talk to you, get to know you a little better as well. And I could have honestly done this for another 45 minutes without even thinking about it. So I'm going to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the message. Thank you for the energy. I'm energized myself now. I'm not sure if you can tell. And I'm also going to thank everybody online. Thank you for once again being with us at speakersinc.com, the We Speak series. We are going around the world finding wonderful speakers just like Ellie. And if you would like to find out more about Ellie and her talks, various talks that she does, you simply log on to speakersinc.com. Talk to Bronwyn, talk to Duncan. They will help you get the magic from Alison into your company. So if you would like to, please do make contact with the guys. And Alison, thank you again for your time. It's been a real treat, and I really hope to see you again real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
One.